Donald Trump has rushed into federal court on an emergency basis, and he is demanding that a federal judge permit him now to engrave his name into the Kennedy Center, or else he says he will fully demolish the Kennedy Center. He will reduce it to rubble, and he may or may not build an amphitheater in the surrounding area, but he says he will demolish the Kennedy Center. He also wants to name the surrounding area by the Kennedy Center after himself, the Trump Pavilion. Now, the same federal judge previously ordered that Donald Trump could not rename the Kennedy Center as the Trump Kennedy Center. Trump was ordered to remove his name from the Kennedy Center. Donald Trump then placed tarp in front of where his name previously was. That tarp remains today as a physical manifestation of Donald Trump's cover-up of everything. But now Donald Trump is saying, well, I can't name it the Trump Kennedy Center, so I want to engrave my name into the Kennedy Center and say that this Kennedy Center honors Donald J. Trump, and I want that to be big and engraved so everybody can see it. And I want to name the surrounding area the Trump Pavilion in honor of Donald J. Trump, so when everybody's by the Kennedy Center, they think of me. I'm going to show you this ridiculous filing by Donald Trump in just a moment, but this comes at the same time that the Washington Post just published an expose about how the Kennedy Center finances absolutely deteriorated under Donald Trump. It actually began deteriorating rapidly when Donald Trump was inaugurated, and he immediately took steps in order to politicize the board of the Kennedy Center and to turn the Kennedy Center into a Trump propaganda machine. And then the financial harm accelerated after the name change from the Kennedy Center to the Trump Kennedy Center. And so the Washington Post got its hands on budget and meeting minutes of the Trump propaganda board. And here's the report. Kennedy Center finances deteriorated sharply after the Trump name change, short by about $100 million in revenue and down massively on donations. Budget and meeting documents obtained by the Washington Post show ticket revenue and fundraising plummeted, even as Trump propagandists publicly touted the financial turnaround. No, it was actually functioning well before Donald Trump took over. It was doing good. People loved it in Washington, D.C. It actually had a financial viable model. But just as Donald Trump bankrupts everything, just as Trump bankrupted all of his casinos and all of his businesses, and now the United States, this is what we are seeing. Ticket sales and donations plunged after the Trump-led Board of Trustees voted in December to rename the center after him and put his name on the front of the building, according to records. The Kennedy Center is on pace to miss its revenue target by nearly $100 million this year. That's a significant amount. Kennedy Center revenue plunged. In addition, there was also sharp drops in donations, short by 25% after the vote to rename the Kennedy Center. So I want to go into this filing, though, now for a moment, because I want you to see the actual psychotic words of the Trump regime in their emergency filing so you can share it with people. So you can say, look, this isn't Ben giving his opinion. Ben is reading the words of the filing directly, essentially word for word, so that you can understand what a psychotic filing this is and how abnormal and how bizarre and how fascist this is. So this is Defendant Trump's response for emergency injunction filing. And it's Congresswoman Beatty, who is the plaintiff in this case, because she is she's a board member, because she's a Congress member, but she doesn't really have the same voting rights, but she's the Congress. They weren't able to push her out. This is what the Trump regime writes in their filing, in this emergency filing. The Kennedy Center is in terrible trouble. The crisis is so acute that without the Trump administration, its people, and President Trump, the center cannot survive, either structurally or financially. Pause right there. He's a super predator. He is a horrific human being, right? Donald Trump is out there saying he's the one who saves everybody. He says that you won't be able to survive. The Kennedy Center was doing fine without Donald Trump. It was doing fine, and people liked it, and he ruined it. But he goes, now I'm the one who needs to save it. He is the arsonist who burns the thing down like our country and then says, but now you need me. Now, this is how he does everything in life. The filing goes on to say, the building has become dangerously dilapidated, outdated, and decrepit. It is structurally unsound, fundamentally unsafe, an embarrassment to the nation's capital. Because the center's finances are in crisis, the center is facing terminal decline. It wasn't in crisis before you got there. It wasn't structurally unsound before you got there. It wasn't an embarrassment to the nation's capital. And you just think about the way like Donald Trump treats Canada. They treat us so unfairly. They're so mean to us. They're the worst. Like he's delusional in everything. No, they aren't. This was a great cultural icon. It was doing fine. What are you talking about? He goes on to say, like many arts and entertainment facilities, the center has been losing tens of millions of dollars each and every year for decades, and it is projected to lose over $100 million per year long into the future. Maybe as a result of you, but not before you. In short, both physically and financially, the Kennedy Center is in critical condition. To bring the sick and poorly run facility back to health will require time, energy, talent, and large amounts of money. You're the sick one. Do you understand the projection? You are the sick one who financially bankrupts everything you touch. Upon retaking office in 2025, Donald Trump assumed that challenge. He obtained $258 billion in funding from Congress for capital restoration and has marshaled a new donor base to finance an endowment for the center. These efforts promise to raise hundreds of millions of dollars to fund desperately needed structural improvements, thereby making the center physically and financially secure for generations to come, and perhaps most importantly, to make the center structurally safe from collapse or calamity. There is no clear, present, current danger of it being collapsing or facing calamity. I'll tell you what collapsed the East Wing when you bulldozed it. Donald Trump then says, the Trump administration and President Trump have also committed an enormous amount of time and energy in planning for the forthcoming renovation and restoration of this building, a task which Trump, given his unrivaled expertise and experience in real estate and construction and prominence as president, is uniquely qualified to accomplish. I mean, what a weird filing. It is actually rivaled by a lot of people, and on the rivalry, Trump loses over and over again. The board recognizes that Trump's efforts and prestige provided the sole hope for the center's financial survival and structural renewal. I just want you to think about how sick that is. The sole way that this can be saved is one man. Only he alone can fix it. He just so happens to be the guy who's bankrupted everything in his life, who sexually assaulted E. Jean Carroll, who brags about sexually assaulting women, who is a felon, who is a fraud. He's the only one who can fix it, who slaughters the little girls in Iran. Only he can fix it. I mean, again, it's sick. The board also underscores, and the undisputed evidence demonstrates, that without the prominent recognition of the Trump administration and President Trump's efforts, the donors will not contribute, and the center will continue to be in financial and structural debt spirals. The Trump administration and President Donald J. Trump should therefore be given the respect and dignity of acknowledgement. Give me the respect. Let me engrave my name in the building. I financially ruined this, and now I'm demanding that people give it more money to fix what I've ruined, and give me the respect. Give me the acknowledgement. I don't know. How about you actually do things for the American freaking people, and then the American people can judge your record and determine honorifics afterwards, the way we've done it for every president. And let me be very clear, you will be known in history as the vile, fascist piece of trash, sexual predator, Epstein cover-upper that you are. You will go down as the most vile thing in the United States. You will not get honorifics. But why don't you do your job and then see after versus praise me, praise me. By the way, even Kim Jong-un doesn't do this crazy stuff. Like, they do wild stuff, but and dangerous stuff. But even they don't do as crazy stuff as Trump's doing. Then Trump goes on to say, in June, the board unanimously voted, Democrat Representative Joyce Beatty included, to recognize the president. Really? I don't think so, because she's suing you right now. Next, on August 13th, the board voted by an overwhelming majority to take three specific actions in order to recognize and acknowledge President Trump. In fact, though Congresswoman Beatty voted against the August 13 measure, she explicitly stated that she had no objection to one component of it, renaming the center's grounds after Trump to honor the work he's doing to save the Kennedy Center. Without those efforts, the center will deteriorate further into an unsafe, decrepit structure that will be required to be taken down with a determination to follow on what to build on the site, such as a large outdoor amphitheater overlooking the Potomac River that has been proposed by some for many years. Such a replacement will fail to adequately honor President John F. Kennedy, but would be simpler and more economic to build, operate, and maintain. And do you see how he also frames it as, and we need to honor President JFK, and so in order to honor him, you must honor me. Then it goes on to say, nevertheless, Beatty, seemingly motivated by a partisan end to ensure the Kennedy Center does not succeed under Trump's leadership, now asks this court to prohibit those three crucial and plainly lawful initiatives adopted by the board in order to recognize the Trump administration's unique contribution to the center's viability. 1. Add the inscription renovated and restored by President Donald J. Trump on the front of the building under the center's name. 2. Adding the phrase endowed by the Trump Kennedy Center Fund, which is already in existence and ready to go, ! And under the first inscription. And 3. Naming the site that contains the center the President Donald J. Trump Plaza. Congresswoman Beatty cannot challenge the renaming of the plaza, an action that she affirmatively stated at the board meeting she did not object to. Beatty lacks standing in her capacity as an ex officio board member with no legal right to vote to challenge an action that she agreed to in her capacity as a non-voting member. Her claim of standing makes a mockery of Article 3, destroys the lawsuit's basis, and reveals the nakedly partisan nature of her efforts. Hey, bud, she already was found to have standing in that the initial putting Trump Kennedy Center was blocked. Even worse, Beatty's claim further tarnishes the court's decision, with Beatty's appearance of bias and partisanship that sullies Beatty's endless litigation against the board and threatens to further embroil the court in a partisan lawsuit lacking merit. More importantly, it almost guarantees the continued decline and eventual demise of the Kennedy Center, probably leading to the construction of a new but very different kind of venue. Why? Are you going to destroy the Kennedy Center? I mean, it's such a lunatic thing to say. All three actions adopted by the board are completely lawful. No statute names the plaza or prohibits the board from renaming it, just the opposite. Congress authorized the board to maintain and administer the site containing the center, and that entails the authority to name it. In fact, just 7 years ago, the center named a substantial portion of its grounds the Reach, without a semblance of protest. Nobody had any idea what it even meant. Evidently, Beatty contends that the center's grounds can be renamed only if the renaming does not acknowledge President Trump. That position has no merit. Likewise, the two planned inscriptions on the front portico are plainly lawful. An acknowledgement of the Trump administration and President Trump's present and future efforts to renovate and restore the center is not memorial under any plausible reading of the statute. Such acknowledgments of major donors are ubiquitous in similar facilities, and Beatty efforts no plausible reason to suppose that Congress foreclosed them here. So you get it, right? The court ordered he remove his name. So now he wants to inscribe his name and say it's an honor to him. So he's not naming it the Trump Kennedy Center. He's saying it's in honor of Trump Kennedy Center, and he will inscribe that. And if you don't let him do it, he will tear down the Kennedy Center, he says, and he will fully demolish it. Well, our Scott McFarlane, DC bureau chief at the MeidasTouch network, spoke with a former Kennedy Center employee, Mallory Miller. Here's what she told us about Trump's suggestion of demolishing the facility. Let's play this clip.
Think of that tarp. It still blocks the removal of Trump's name.
What an embarrassment. It is a monument to his shame that he refuses to let people see that his name has come down. You know, Hands Off the Arts put up a camera that was running for 24 hours before the national and international media did on the balcony of a Watergate apartment. And then when they put up this tarp over the front of the building, we got the picture that proved that the name came off. So I just wanted to remind people that just because we can't see it does not mean that the name hasn't come off the building. And that's exactly why they're trying to make the name be put back on the building with these atrocious filings.
And then I spoke with Ben Folds back in February of 2026 on the Kennedy Center, Center's partisanship and propaganda of Donald Trump. Here's what he told me when I interviewed him earlier in the year. Let's play it.
It's really sad. The Kennedy Center had so many great missions, and it is a memorial as well. It's as close to sacred stuff as you can get for our federal government. But aside from that, it really is playing out roughly the way that it felt it would for me a year ago. And I'm not saying that I understood how events would unfold exactly, but it was clearly the first step it was an authoritarian move. It was an authoritarian first step. And obviously they weren't going to start by trying to steamroller late night comedians. They thought they would run over us first. And that's much easier because it's close to home and they know what they're, and they know how to do it. But now the things that are happening are no surprise because that's, it wasn't just him. I think people misunderstand. It's not just him going in wanting to book bands or something. It's commandeering, the government's, the arts. And then from there, that's expression. That's freedom of expression. And from there, you move on to the networks and to Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel and 60 Minutes. And you just keep steamrolling. So I was sick on my stomach when I quit because one, I knew they were going to run in the ground. No one that they were appointing had any experience in arts administration, but that was never the point. The point was to take that, run over it and move on. So it's rotting over, next to the Potomac in the moment. And it's just sad, Well,
there you have it, everybody. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. Thanks for watching, everybody. We appreciate you.
Before you go, our book, WTF America, is available for pre-order now. It's the story of how we got here and how we fight our way back. To pre-order, scan the QR code or click the link in the description. Let's do this.